The day my family told me they never wanted to see my husband again, something inside me broke. Not because I was surprised, but because, deep down, I had spent years hoping they would eventually change. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and 9 years ago, I made a choice that cost me my family. I chose love. And according to them, that was unforgivable. I met my husband, Daniel, when I was 27 years old. He wasn't wealthy. He didn't come from an influential family. He didn't have the kind of background my parents loved to brag about at social gatherings. What he did have was kindness. The kind that appeared in small moments. The kind that couldn't be faked. The kind that made me feel safe. For the first time in my life, I felt truly loved. When Daniel proposed, I said yes without hesitation. I thought my family would eventually see what I saw. I believed they would recognize the incredible man standing beside me. Instead, they judged him before they even knew him. My mother called him unsuitable. My father called him a mistake. My older brother treated him like an embarrassment. Every family gathering became a battlefield. Every conversation ended with criticism. Every visit left us emotionally exhausted. Then came the final confrontation. 3 months before our wedding, my father invited me over for dinner. I thought he wanted to make peace. I couldn't have been more wrong. He placed an envelope on the table. Inside was a check. A very large one. "Leave him," my father said. My heart stopped. For a moment, I couldn't speak. "If you end this relationship now," he continued, "we can pretend none of this happened." I stared at him in disbelief. He was offering money in exchange for my future. In exchange for the man I loved. When I refused, his face hardened. Then he said words I will never forget. "If you marry him, don't come back." And just like that, my family walked away from me. No wedding attendance. No phone calls. No birthday messages. Nothing. It was as if I had disappeared. Daniel held me together during the darkest months. Together we built a life from scratch. A small apartment became a home. Long workdays became opportunities. Struggles became successes. Years passed. And eventually, the pain became easier to carry. Then one morning, 9 years later, my phone rang. The caller ID showed a name I hadn't seen in nearly a decade. My mother. And what she wanted would change everything. I stared at the screen for several seconds before answering. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me wanted answers. Eventually, curiosity won. "Hello." Silence. Then my mother's voice. Older. Softer. Almost fragile. "Sarah, we need to talk." The words felt strange coming from her. For 9 years, she hadn't wanted to talk. Now suddenly she did. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet. A week later, I walked into a small restaurant downtown. My parents were already seated. Seeing them again felt surreal. Time had changed them. But not enough to erase the memories. Not enough to erase the hurt. For a few awkward minutes, nobody spoke. Then my father finally broke the silence. "We need your help." There it was. The real reason. Not love. Not regret. Not reconciliation. Need. I almost laughed. 9 years of silence reduced to a single request. "What kind of help?" I asked. My mother exchanged nervous glances with my father. Then the truth came out. My brother's business was collapsing. Massive debt. Failed investments. Lawsuits. Everything was falling apart. They needed financial assistance. A lot of it. The irony was almost unbelievable. The same family that once considered Daniel unworthy now needed help from the life we had built together. The life they said would never succeed. The life they predicted would fail. My father couldn't even look me in the eye. For years, he had spoken about Daniel as if he were beneath us. Now his pride had disappeared. And desperation had taken its place. I listened quietly while they explained everything. The more they talked, the clearer something became. They still hadn't apologized. Not once. Not a single apology. Not for missing my wedding. Not for abandoning me. Not for treating Daniel like he wasn't good enough. They simply wanted help. When they finished speaking, I asked one question. "Do you regret what you did?" The silence that followed lasted forever. My mother looked down. My father stared out the window. Finally, my mother spoke. We thought we were protecting you. The answer hurt more than I expected. Because even after 9 years, they still couldn't admit they were wrong. They wanted forgiveness without accountability, support without responsibility, love without effort. And suddenly, I realized something. The family I had spent years missing no longer existed. Maybe it never had. But what I didn't know that day was that the greatest lesson wasn't about their betrayal. It was about finally understanding my own worth. That night, I sat on the porch with Daniel and told him everything. Every detail. Every request. Every emotion. When I finished speaking, he squeezed my hand gently. The same way he had done for 9 years. The same way he had done every time my family broke my heart. The next day, I invited my parents to our home. For the first time, they walked through the front door of the life they had rejected. They saw our family photos. They saw our children. They saw the business Daniel and I had built together. They saw success. Not because we had been lucky. Because we had worked for it. My father stood quietly in the living room, looking around, almost ashamed. Then I finally gave them my answer. I won't give you money. The room became silent. My mother looked devastated. My father looked stunned. But before they could respond, I continued. I won't solve problems created by years of bad decisions. My father's shoulders dropped. For the first time, he seemed to understand. Then I said something else. However, I will help your family find financial advisors. I'll connect you with people who can help create a recovery plan. My mother began crying. Not because of the money. Because she finally realized this wasn't about money anymore. It was about consequences. It was about choices. It was about 9 years of damage. And damage takes time to repair. As they prepared to leave, my father stopped near the door. Then he turned toward Daniel, the man he once rejected, the man he once considered unworthy, and quietly said, I was wrong. 3 simple words. 9 years late, but genuine. Daniel nodded. Nothing more. Nothing less. Sometimes healing doesn't arrive dramatically. Sometimes it arrives through honesty. Slowly. Painfully. One truth at a time. Over the following months, communication slowly returned. Trust wasn't magically restored. The wounds didn't disappear overnight. But something changed. For the first time, there was accountability. For the first time, there was effort. For the first time, there was truth. And that's when I realized something important. The greatest revenge wasn't watching them struggle. The greatest revenge wasn't making them suffer. The greatest revenge was building a beautiful life without their approval. It was proving that their rejection never determined my future. It was showing my children what unconditional love actually looks like. Because real love doesn't come with conditions. Real love doesn't disappear when someone makes a choice you don't understand. And real family doesn't force you to choose between happiness and acceptance. 9 years earlier, my family rejected my husband. They believed he would ruin my life. Instead, he helped me build the life of my dreams. And when they finally came back wanting something, they discovered that the daughter they abandoned was no longer waiting for their approval. She had already learned how to thrive without it.